thanks for coming today. Obviously, we're here earlier than we want to be, having an end-of-the-year conversation. I'll sort of give you my view of where the state of the Blues. As a manager, my job, I think, is to look at things from 30,000 feet, not one game, one shift, 1 2-minute segment. That's all I can think about right now is 1 2-minute segment. But I do have to look at the year in its totality. I think when we started the year, when we had a conversation, I was asked about expectations, and I sidestepped it to an extent, but I thought we were better than maybe people thought we were going to be. I thought we had made changes to improve our team. I thought we had brought in a couple of younger players. I thought we had brought in some speed, and I was counting on pushback and from some of our returning players to take it to a different level. And there's ebbs and flows in every year, and this year was no different. But what I said to some of the guys is that in 5 or 6 years, when people Google or the Wikipedia this season, they're going to see 96 points in a playoff team. That's probably what I thought we were going to be. One of the things I talked to our team about is an NHL team is like a tanker in the ocean. When you want to turn things around, it takes a while. And when I say that, I mean you get better in this league in small percentages. We had 92 points a year ago. This year we had 96. I hate doing math in public, but that's about 5%. I think if we do that again next year, that gets us close to 100 points, and that's where we want to go. So I'm hoping that we have turned the tide on the whatever, and we're starting to become a competitive team that has expectations, honest expectations, reasonable expectations of success. Anything can happen in a season. You see that around the league. Teams that thought they were going to have a good year didn't have a good year, and teams that thought they were going to have a bad year had a really good year. I thought, as Bill Parcells, you are who you are, and this is who I thought we were, and the season ended up like that. So I'm going to be here and answer any questions you may have, but that's sort of my feeling on the season is we ended up extremely disappointed in how that ended. One of the way this ended bothered me a little bit because it was a pattern of how games ended for us. It's not a pattern that we want to continue, and something that if we're here in next December and we're talking about the same issue, I'll have to go to the old quote machine and bring back the Killer Instinct quote that my wife hates. But we have to find that back in us again. We have to be able to close out games. We've done the research on where we fit in the league. 5-on-6, last in the league. Only team in the league 5-on-6 that had a negative goal for differential. Those are small things that make a huge difference. I told the players that I was privileged to work with this team, and I really feel like that. They came together, they grew, but we're in the winning business, and we left something on the table that I don't know if you get over it ever. I don't know if you ever get over it. I know it's not going to be this summer because it was right there and we let it go. But for the organization, I have to let it go. It will never leave my mind, but I have to let it go and I have to start building. So that's where we're at today.
Players talk about the culture of the team changing. How much do you see that within the culture changed?
Well, I think there became a change of hoping to win to expecting to win. And I guess that is a culture change. And I was talking to Mr. Stillman the other night, and I said that we were fortunate enough to have 3 large changes into our group within a year, and you can sometimes go 5 years without having 3 large changes that affect your team. Those 3 were expediting our building 2 new players into that age bracket of the neighbors and Broberg and Holloway, bringing them in, made me believe that we were closer than other people thought because we believed they were going to be good. Bringing Jim Montgomery in gave us, like when we hired Ken Hitchcock, I said to the players, like, coaching's not an issue. Not that it was an issue under Drew, but he was inexperienced and he was learning. We brought an experienced coach in, and that was no longer going to be an excuse that the players or the manager or people knew more about coaching than Jim did. Jim knows more about coaching than I do, and he knows more about coaching than the players do. He knows the most about coaching of anyone in this organization. And then we were lucky to get Fowler. Like that's you bring in somebody that had an impact that Fowler had on our group, sliding into your top 4, top 3, likely top 2, statistically being one of the top players in the game in his position from the day he got here. So you combine all 3 of those things, it's exciting because all 3 of those things are going to be here at least for another year. And with regards to Fowler, he looks like a great conditioned athlete. He's a great person. I'm getting to see that more and more every day. And he's fitting into where we are next year, and we'll see about moving forward. But that's how I think why we had that turnaround, because of those 3 things.
Doug, you talk about what you thought this team could be before the season and your confidence there, considering everything through the season, and they took that historic run to get to the playoffs. How much did your confidence waver, and how close did you come to maybe making the decision to shake this group out throughout the season?
That's why I prefaced my that I get to do it from 30,000 feet, and I don't have to do the day-to-day thing. In 5 years, we had 96 points. We made the playoffs. That's how I have to look at it. But yeah, there were times when I second-guessed if we had the right group together, and to their credit, they proved that we did. And what excites me the most is the disappointment they have today. They're not patting themselves on the back on what a great ride we had after the 4 Nations, blah, blah, blah. They're disappointed. They knew that we had the best team over 82 games, dead to rights, and we let them off the mat. And that's going to sting them as it stings me, and that's something that's great. And so there are ebbs and flows every year, though. I'm wondering if I'm doing my job correctly. And you just wait till the season's over and you reflect back on it. And I think organizationally we had a decent year. Not a great year. We had a decent year.
Army, obviously the Holloway injury hurt your team. Any update in terms of what he went through, how significant the injury was? Same with Tyler Tucker. And was Robert Thomas at all plagued by injury entering the playoffs?
Holloway and Tucker were done. Holloway got injured in that game. We didn't think it was going to be as serious as it was, and he needed to get some work done. But he'll be 100% for training camp. Tucker's injury, I think we all saw in the playoffs. It was a non-surgical candidate, but he was going to be out a while. The other players. If you're healthy enough to play, then you're healthy. So we're not going to use anyone's individual ailments as an excuse for not playing tomorrow night. And I don't say that to minimize what the guys go through, but I would be shocked if you went around to any team that played 6 months and 82 games, and everyone said, no, I feel great. That's not the type of sport that we have, and so. We had 2 guys that were injured, and that was it.
Doug, your 4th line obviously was really good throughout the postseason. How big a priority is re-signing Faksa?
He and I had a good conversation. It's something that I want to reflect back on. We want to grow. We have young players that we want to grow, but we don't want to disregard what he meant to us. And again, that's a different part, Frank, where we're at in our maturation. If we expect to be good again and we have to keep good players here, he has to want to stay here too. There's a lot that goes on, but that line was our identity. I've seen what an identity line can do, and he's someone that I want to let the dust settle. I want to sit with Alex. I want to sit with our coaches to find out what we have coming, who can fill some of these roles. But he's been he and Suter specifically came in, veteran players, 1-year deals, and they gave us everything that we could want and more. And Fact's a guy that I told how privileged I was to work with, and we're going to talk to him.
Just to clarify before I ask a question, when you said Holloway had stuff done, does that mean surgery?
Yeah.
Okay. And then secondly, where do you see this roster needs areas for improvement? What do you think like your jobs will be this offseason?
Well, I think we shored up our top 4D for now. I think you can, if we improve 5% point-wise and think we're going to bring back the same team and improve 5%, again, that's not realistic, so we have to make changes. I think bringing Snuggerud into our group is a positive change. I think if we could add another player that can provide 200-foot offense, that's something that we can look at. But again, the problem, JR, I have with today is I say something and then July 15th it's not done and people think that we're not trying. We're trying to get better. If I tell you exactly what we want to do, the agent's going to know how much I want to spend, and he's going to charge me 10% more. So I'm going to keep some of those things to myself, but we would like to improve in the 200-foot offensive game.
Doug, when you look at the last few seasons missing the playoffs and comparing it to this season taking a President's Trophy team to double overtime Game 7, I'm just curious, from a general manager's perspective, what is the difference in your mindset going into the offseason, given the year you just had, if there is any difference?
Well, I think when I talked about those 3 changes that we made that happened in 1 year that can take over 3, 4, 5 sometimes, is that I think the whatever is ending, and I think we're now becoming who we want to be, and now how quickly do we move up and continue to expand and grow? We could take a step backwards, but I don't think we're going to take a step backwards. And that's not our goal. That's not how I view the returning players as aging players that can't play, because we have young players, like a player like Bolduc, and I haven't had my year-end meeting with him, and I might not need to after I say this, and he's watching. But Boldy was able to play through mistakes this year as we grew. He doesn't have that luxury anymore. That's a 1-year play-through mistake thing that the coach gives you. But at some point now, you're relied on to do things every night the right way all the time. And that's just maturity. And that's not a knock on Boldy whatsoever. It's just the reality when you mature and get better, there's expectations, and the leash is shorter, And Snuggy's probably going to have Boldy's leash next year, a little bit longer. But that's going to end soon too. So I think we're in a good spot. I think because Fowler's coming back, because we've added 2 players in Broberg and Holloway that fit into that age group, and because of Monty, I think we're in a spot now where we believe that we should be competing for playoff spots and hopefully moving up that to start Game 1 year of the playoffs at home.
Doug, I think I heard Barry Trotz yesterday talking about maybe free agency this year isn't going to be as appealing for GMs, that there's going to be an opportunity maybe for hockey trades more so than before. You've never been afraid about making hockey trades. You feel like if that might be your avenue to go, if you're going to improve this team, is to look at hockey trades this offseason?
Yeah, sure. Have him give me a call. No, I think you have to look at free agency for sure. You have to look at everything. I don't think there's a cookie cutter model of building a team that just says it's through the draft, through your own players, or through free agency. I think it's a blend of everything. I think there's good players in free agency. Now, whether they get there or not is always something different. You know, we have our pens ready and Mr. Stillman's money at the side of the table, and then all of a sudden on June 27th, somebody signs. You know, you don't know who's going to get there, but there's players there that we would have interest in if they get to that point. And if not, you know, if not, there's a feeling that if we did nothing, we're still further ahead than we've been over the last 4 or 5 years. But our goal is always to improve.
Before the win streak, how close were you to actually breaking the team up, and what type of influence did conversations with players have with you at all about not making a move?
One-on-one conversation with players, that I think I had one. I think it was after the Washington game. You know, Suits and I talked, and he said, "What are you doing?" I said, "If you guys keep playing, we're doing nothing." You know, and we did. But I don't. It's not my style to go ask the players what they think I should do. You know, I can pick that up through the coaches and their body language and their performance on the ice. But I did, Frank, tell my counterparts in the league coming out of the Four Nations that if we play 500 hockey or 550 or 600 hockey between then and the trade deadline, we'll likely be sellers because it's not going to be good enough, and we didn't. But when we got to the trade deadline, you know, analytics are what they are, but, you know, I said to get to 91 points, which I thought 91 or 2 might get us in, we had to play 680 hockey for 12 weeks. I said, we hadn't done that in 2 years. What makes us think we're going to do it? But they did it, and they did it that and plus. So they had earned the right to stay together, and we did get to a point at the trade deadline where we said we would make hockey trades, we wouldn't make future trades. And that, I'm going to say, didn't change. It gave me pause to think when I got the news about Colton Parayko after the LA game when he was injured. That was the day before the deadline. And then I had to regroup with our staff and say, okay, they're playing great. What's the likelihood of them being able to do this without our number one defenseman at the time? And we debated, does that change our outlook? And at the end of the day, it didn't. We were making hockey trades if we were making anything.
Is there any more clarity on Torrey Krug's situation, and how does that uncertainty, if there is it, affect your summer?
I don't really think there's much uncertainty with Torrey. I talked to him. He was at the rink the other day. He's just getting almost normal to day-to-day living with his leg, his ankle. So I'm not expecting him to play again. Now I'm hoping he's hoping I'm wrong, and I'm hoping I'm wrong, and he's pushing. But the surgery that he had there, it was very, very invasive.
Doug, just want to ask you about Dvorsky. After getting a little cup of coffee, just where do you see him with the organization right now, especially going into next year?
I think he's going to. So that's an interesting. I'm glad you brought that up because I can talk about why he wasn't part of our group that got called up. He was certainly going to be in that group that was here, that came to Winnipeg with us, that would have moved on with us. But I got a call from his national team telling me that they wanted him there. And then we did our due diligence on what do you want him for? Are you going to play him? And they said, no, he's going to have an important role. So as a 19-year-old, I felt it was more important for him to continue to play than to be around watching us. One of the things that we felt as we were pushing to play meaningful games that he wasn't ready for that every night. You know, if we had got into the playoffs, the physical maturity wasn't there, that we wouldn't have gone to him. We would have gone to other guys anyways. Now, he could have learned by being with us on what they were doing, but we didn't have a view in which he would have got into the lineup. And so going to the Worlds, I think, is going to be a huge benefit to him. Again, 19, he's just leaving his ability for junior. We're not putting expectations that are unrealistic for him. He has to come in. He has to have a great summer. He has to believe that, well, he doesn't have to believe. He knows he has to earn a spot. There's nothing giving to him. And if he can do it, great. But if he doesn't make the team out of training camp next year, it's part of the process. I look what Bolduc, as an example, went down, played almost 3/4 of a year, came up, had a really good year this year, probably somewhat similar. Now, I'm hoping he comes in, has a great camp, and he makes our decisions hard. But we're not, I think you guys have heard me say this, NHL teams fail players as much as players fail NHL teams. We're not going to fail him by putting him in a situation not to have success.
Doug, going back to the offseason and signing players like Radek Faksa and Ryan Suter, I don't think that's something that, a lot of people were super excited about. But when you look at signing depth players like that, I'm just curious your perspective on how instrumental players like that can be to a team, especially in the position that they were coming into this season.
Well, for us, it was big because they have experience. And if you're going to find an experienced player, I'd like to take one from a winning organization. So you probably don't know what you know until you're not around. So all the things that Suits picked up over 20 plus years, like we knew we were going to get there. But I don't think Faska knew how much he had learned in Dallas that he could bring to us that was very monumental in us having the proper attitude. So I think depth players from winning organizations mean a lot. And those two guys continued my belief that that's the way to go when you're going to go that direction. And as far as people, and I don't say this, I trust Al McGinnis and Peter Chiarelli and Scott Mellenby and Tim Taylor and the people I work with, Alex Steen, to know what makes a team tick. And not every signing is sexy. It's not going to be one that the fans ooh and ah over. But again, they make us 0.5% better, and you get two of them. That's 1% better. We're at 20% of the 5 we got to get to.
Army, you brought in Matthew Joseph, Texier, and they were kind of in and out of the lineup throughout the course of the year. What do you think of their season, and how do you view those two moving forward?
Well, that was the speed element that we wanted to bring in, and I thought that both players showed flashes of strong play, but quite honestly, the Faksa, Walker, Torpachenko line kept them at bay. And that's the internal part of competition that makes a team better. Now, what they have to do is be great teammates and come back in and wrestle that ice away. And what those guys have to do are be great teammates and not let them wrestle that ice away. Like, our greatest teams are the groups I've been around that have had the most success. It's not what the team across from you brings, it's what you bring in your practices, the competition you have internally, just to get on the ice makes you better. And so those guys brought us speed, they brought us elements that helped us on different nights, and now they have to continue to push to get into that role where they're going to take someone's job. That's the beauty of sport.
Doug, I also wanted to ask you about Jordan Kyrou. A couple years ago, he was a -38. This year, he's a +23 and leads the team. Just how do you analyze his overall, evolution from a couple years ago to now?
Well, that is the beautiful part of being at 30,000 feet, is you can take time to let things evolve and grow and not fail a player. It happens quicker sometimes. When he was those big minuses, it's not like we were a really good team when he was the outlier. And as we became better, those minuses turned into pluses. When you outscore your opposition, you gain pluses. When you get outscored, no matter what you're doing, you gain minuses. So I think he's matured. I think that for he and Thomas, Broberg and Holloway aren't there yet. They'll be there another year or two, as they're now entering the next 3 or 4 years are going to be their prime, top of the bell curve, 25, 26, 27 to 31, 32. That's an analytical look on when players play their best. So he's entering the best part of what he's going to be. Now it's up to him to decide how high is that mountain. Is it Everest or is it a foothill? I think he's got a chance to climb a big mountain. He's got the skill set, he's got the talent, and he now knows the effect he can have on a good team. Not a good team, a team that's getting better.
Piggybacking on that, what did you see from Kyrou in the playoffs? I know he took the big hit. Do you feel like this playoff experience, because he hadn't been in there in a couple years, gave him the knowledge of what it's going to take to be productive in the postseason?
Yeah, I do, and those are battle wounds that you have to go through. I'll give you like insight to a manager's mind. I thought game 1 of the playoffs was likely our last game we played in Winnipeg. That's if I was working for Winnipeg, I would have said, okay, this is game 1. Let's set the tone. And I don't even remember Stanley ran him over that game. That's something you learn. Like that wasn't game 78 or 9 for them. They viewed that as game 1 of round 1, and they had circled names, and they were getting their pound of flesh. And I think he learned that. Unfortunately, he learned it the hard way. And I think he's going to grow from that. When you're a marked man in this league, when you're an exceptional player, people want to party you. And when I look at the playoffs, that's what made me excited about our team, is that they knew that if we got to game 6 and 7, the ounce of flesh they took in game 1, 2, and 3, they'd look in their pocket, they'd have a pound of flesh in game 6 and 7. And I thought our guys did a great job of pushing and making it difficult. And again, that's why it hurts so much, because I thought they did a great job of putting themselves in a spot to reap the benefits of playing hard from game 1, shift 1. And that's where it really eats at you that you weren't be able to close that out, because they had done everything they could do physically to gain the position to be in to close that game out. Sure, yeah.
Just how do you think Shen grew as a captain this year?
I think it's been a tough couple of years. I thought so I'll answer it very well. Very well. I thought he's got his arms around what needs to be done. He is selfless in the way he treats players off the ice. He does a lot of those things behind the scenes that leaders do. I think he's done a really good job. And when we, like, it's not like we handed him a functioning top-ended team when he was the captain. It's not like, we didn't give him like the keys of the Titanic, but we weren't sailing smooth either. So I think he's done a really good job, and more importantly, his teammates think he's done a good job, and that's if he has respect of his teammates, which he does, he has respect of me.
What were those last 2 minutes like for you?
Awful. I mean, honestly, I never felt comfortable because I hadn't had enough information to think that was a time to feel comfortable. We had been down that path too often and had bad things happen to us that, it was uncomfortable, and our worst fears came to pass, that we hadn't learned enough as an organization, coaches, players, all of us, how to close those games out. And it bit us at the worst time that was something that we couldn't figure out, because you can't go deep in the playoffs not being able to close games out. We're actually quite fortunate to make the playoffs with that 5-on-6 record in the regular season. Again, I think Tampa was unbelievable in that situation. I mean, if we're just league average closing those games out, we're 102 points, like falling out of bed, you know. But Vancouver in here at the end of the year, like it was just, and the concerning was we got seamed. Seam meaning cross ice passes too often, and at the end of the day, it might have been a broken play, but we still got seamed. And it ends up in the back of our net, and we go to overtime, and then you're in the hockey gods' hands.
Army, it might be a better question for another day, but just while we have you here, just, you're entering the final year as GM. Just, you probably don't spend too much time thinking about that, but just thoughts on that. And also, watching Alex up close this year, do you feel like it was a good year for him in terms of just absorbing things?
The second part first, yeah, I do. I am. You like when you make a long-term plan, you never know how it's going to work out. I'm happy that Mr. Stillman had the vision to allow us to do this, because Alex was looked at differently this year than he would have been if he didn't have that title coming. He could act differently if that people know where he's going to be, what decisions he's going to make, and his confidence as a hockey executive is growing. The questions he asks now are genuine. They're thought out. He's been around long enough to see what we do and how we do it, and so I think he's in a really good spot, and he'll be ready. There's no question he's going to be ready. And for myself, yeah, there are times you do reflect on that. Like, I love this job. I love managing a hockey team. But as I said, I think when we said to Alex, just because I love it doesn't mean it's the right thing either. So I'm excited about this next year. I'm excited about working my hardest to make sure that this team is ready to take off when there's a new guy doing this press conference next year.
Hey, Doug, do you mind?
Actually, I'll do this press conference next year, the year after.
Demanding more media?
He loved the media, as you guys remember. He can't wait to do this.
Do you mind going through real quick a couple of other prospects and kind of your year-end scouting report on some of the guys in Springfield and where they're at on your radar screen?
Yeah, throw some names out and I'll see if I...
Kaskamaki, Peterson, Stenberg.
Yeah, all three of those guys had very good years. Stenberg came over after the World Junior. Again, a 19-year-old playing in a man's league. I thought he got his eyes opened on just the 3-and-3 nights. They never play over there, or 2-and-2. They never play the travel. He's a benefactor of doing that. Kaskamaki is one of my... I saw him at the World Junior in Sweden. There's something about that player that attracts me to him. His detail. He reminds me a lot of, and I hate putting comparisons out because they get held to it, but not the offensive Alex Steen. He doesn't have that offense yet. He might never have that offense, but he has that understanding of the game, understanding of important times of the game, where important ice is, how to get to it. I saw that when he represents his national team. Again, he's a guy if he does what he's supposed to do, I see him getting games next year. If he does what he's supposed to and has a great training camp, he could start with us. Petey's another guy, and I got to give Chris Thorburn a ton of credit on this one. Works in our development group, and he's had this guy's back right from the get-go. And it's been injuries. There's been a lot going on there. And I tell you, this is like a Torpachenko style of player, big body, plays direct, understands the elements that he can bring to a game, and accepts them, and wants to do that. So he's probably a guy I wasn't sure what we were going to get. That is a guy that really has embraced what he's going to be when he gets to the NHL. A guy that if we had to throw him in a game, I wouldn't have any hesitation because he knows who he is.
What about Buchinger?
Booch, first year pro, learning on the job. That position is harder to, they say NHL players, it's not till 200 games till you find out, if they can play in this league. He's had one AHL season, so the jury's out, I would say, I think he had a good first year, but there's more seasoning that needs to be done there. Guys and ladies, people, thank you very much again for your support again this year. I'm excited to where the Blues are at today. To our fans, I just want to say thank you for sticking with us. We're trying to make this a really difficult place to play. The guys did that at the end of the year, and it starts with the enthusiasm that they brought every night when the guys came out of the tunnel. So I don't want to underemphasize how bitter we feel today, how disappointed we are, but I also do want to let people know that we thank them for putting us in this spot to feel like that, giving us the support, and we're going to keep pushing ahead, and hopefully we're not doing this next year for another few weeks. So thanks, everybody.